Hello and welcome to another video by Carbon Prop. Today is not a tutorial video. Today is actually just to discuss some of the performance improvements with the xCub Performance Plus mod. This one will be demonstrating version 1.6.2. So if you see this video in the future, it may be a bit different than that. But what we're going for here is trying to get as realistic performance as we can with the limited information that we have available. So some of these numbers are based on pilot forums, manuals, engine manuals, all sorts of different sources of information. It may not be absolutely accurate, but it's as close as we can get currently with the information we've got. But we're always kind of tweaking it and making performance changes, just make it a little bit better. Some of the things you'll notice here with our version of the Performance Plus mod, so we'll start under fuel. So you'll notice here that it has a left aux tank, which is a little bit different than you're used to seeing. So because our group flies an around the world trip, we needed extended range. So essentially what we've done is we've modeled a bladder tank. It's basically a rubberized package that holds, this particular one holds 24 gallons with 1 gallon that's unusable. Or sorry, 25 gallons with 1 gallon unusable. So you'll see here it says 25 gallons. As you burn it down, it will stop as soon as it gets to 1 gallon available right here. And then it will automatically start burning off the left main tank. And then, of course, the left and right mains, the maximum is 24.5 gallons per side. 1.5 gallons is unusable for this aircraft. So you'll always have this 4% in the aux, 6% in each main tank. That's what's left over, and that's true to life. For the test today, with the demonstrations I'll do here, I am going to set it at 50% fuel and leave the aux tank empty. The aux tank is really only needed if you're doing really extended range flights. This already has great range. This is just to make sure that if you're doing an IFR flight and you want to get even further with alternates and so on, you have that availability. As for the payload, you'll notice it defaults to 200-pound pilot. For test purposes, we're going to do 180 pounds, and that is, as far as I can tell, the performance configuration that Cub Crafters uses for their test flights. So 50% fuel and 180-pound pilot. The rear passenger, if you check out our website, bushleaguelegends.com, you'll see we have a routing page, and I forget what the other page is. Anyway, you'll find in there somewhere at the very bottom of the page is a list of some of the gear that we've got on board. Things like immersion suits for crossing open water, life raft, the tank, the bladder itself, and baggage food, that sort of thing. So that defaults to 14 and 91. You can just set the rear passenger to 0, and we'll do the baggage to 0 as well. You'll also notice from the model outside here, it might be a little different than the default xCub that you're used to getting automatically. You'll notice there's no rear passenger. The reason is that with our around the world flight, we never fly with a passenger. We've always got that aux tank in the back available. So we've removed the model. It's easy to add back in if you like, but I think most people are happy with just the one pilot and no second person in the back. So what we'll do is we'll hop inside here and I'll get things fired up. You'll notice when I turn on the battery master that we've got this Garmin Plus working title mod. A gentleman on our Discord is working on modifications for the GX series or the G3X series Garmin. So you'll notice some differences here as well. We have enunciators. We'll have the engine gas temperature, EGT, or exhaust gas temperature, listed here. So it's a bar graph. Our cylinder head temperature, fuel pressure, oil temp, oil pressure, fuel flow, and prop RPM and manifold pressure. From there, let's see. I guess what I'll do is just get this thing fired up. We'll talk about some of the differences you'll notice on the ground. For this particular um, version of the mod, I've actually dialed back the ground sensitivity quite a bit. I think a lot of people are finding that it was difficult and had to overcompensate a lot for taxiing on the ground. So I've dialed that back, and that'll be probably some future changes that you'll see. Um, so what we'll do is get the ignition on. We'll do the starter. Oh, let's try that again. There we go. I might as well throw the fuel pump on. We're going to be taking off here shortly. The landing strobe lights are on, avionics are on. We'll set the altimeter. And you'll notice here as well with this mod, you'll have annunciators here. So the parking brake is still active. We'll remove that, and then the fuel pump is on. All right. So I'm going to just bring this right back to idle. You'll notice it pulls forward just a touch, which would be like most aircraft in idle. Apply a little bit of braking, it'll stop. And then from here, let's apply just a little bit of power. And let's say we'll taxi down the runway here a little bit. We'll do some turns left and right. So we've dialed back the ground sensitivity again. But the plane is still very capable of making turns. So I've got the power to idle. I'm going to apply one brake, full rudder, or full, yeah, and then a little bit of power in the turn, and then we'll backtrack. So you won't have to use brakes very often with the way this is dialed in. It should just slow down when you pull the power off. You may have to apply a little brake if you need to. And then we'll get the turn going here again, apply a little power in the turn. There we go. So you'll notice on the ground it should work pretty nicely. All right, from there, some of the things you'll notice here as well. The manifolds, this isn't for anybody who's into engines. We made sure that when you've got the manifold pressure up to specs for testing, that it matches manifold pressure and RPM very closely to what the manufacturer's specifications are. You can test the mags if you want. Make sure those are working okay. You can also pull the prop back. Notice that there's about, I think, around a 250 RPM drop, which is all within specs. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we will do a short field takeoff. Typically, you want to take off with one flap. If you had a normal load in the back, if you're doing soft field, short field, you can do flap up. And what we're going to do is we're going to accelerate down the runway. And as soon as we start seeing an indication of airspeed, we're going to drop full flap and slowly pull the nose off, and it should take off. The specs for this particular plane are about 170 feet takeoff and landing, and you should see that it is within that performance within this particular envelope, at least with a 180-pound pilot and no baggage and half tanks. So let's give this a go. We'll give it full power here. We can lift the tail off, release the brakes, start heading down the runway here. There we go. Got airspeed, pull back, and there we go. We got a little bit of a stall warning there. We just tuck the nose back down and start pulling the flaps all the way up. And as per most, I shouldn't say most, but some pilots who fly Cub Crafters airplanes, they suggest a climb setting of an RPM of about 2,500. So we'll set that, and about 25 on the manifold pressure. That should give us a good climb rate still and not over temp the engine. Yeah, so we're just going to take a nice turn here. And what I will demonstrate next is its landing performance, like steep landing. So if you had to clear some obstacles at the end of a runway, this is kind of a neat technique to use. So just going to level off. I'll get prop all the way forward again. I'm going to pull the power back. And we're going to use the grass runway that's right down there. Just extend our downwind just a little bit here. So maximum flap extended speed 73 as far as we can tell. I typically like somewhere around between 73 and 70 knots. So I've got power to idle. I'm going to hold the nose off. I've descended a little bit more than I wanted to. There's through 73. I'm going to put the first notch of flap in. We've got prop full forward, mixtures all the way in, and I'm accelerating a bit more than I want to there. We'll continue the descent. Keep an eye out for the final leg turn. All right, I'll start that turn to final. And I'll put down that second notch of flap. I'm going to keep the power up here a little bit because I actually want to stay a little bit higher and kind of demonstrate this technique. I've done another video on takeoff and landing techniques. I just want to make sure that you kind of understand some of the capabilities of the mod. All right. Well, that should be pretty good there. So I'm going to put full flap down, and what I've got is idle power for now. I'm going to hold the nose up until we start getting into the stall range, which is there. And we should start hearing some stall beeping shortly. There we go. So we want it just on the edge of that. And you'll notice as this occurs, we're still flying, but we're in a really pretty steep descent right here. I don't know if I'm going to make the runway. I can't see it at the moment. Let's see. Oh yeah, we're good. All right. And now just last second, we'll apply a little bit of power just to arrest the descent. Touch down, pull the flaps up, pull full aft on the stick, and apply maximum braking. And that's that. So go back outside here. I land a little bit long there, but you can see that its stop performance is nice. Works really well. One of the other things you can check for on our website is a performance chart. So I've mapped out all of the cruise speeds and so on. You should notice very accurate cruise speeds in this with maximum power of up to 133 knots. Not recommended to run that for a long duration. 75% power, give or take, you're running around 126 knots, which is right in spec. And we've done some other things, so you'll probably notice the way that it handles is a little bit different. And in crosswinds, it's a bit of a handful with a hard crosswind. So anyhow, if you've got any questions, certainly feel free to head to our Discord. That's linked on our website, bushleaguelegends.com. And yeah, make sure you download the mods, keep up to date on everything. And if you'd like to, feel free to join in on our Around the World trip. And for that, I'm Carbon Prop. We'll see you again next time.